welcome to the Hyper Voice. I am your host, Stephen Morioka, and today I am joined by Alex Underhill.
Hello, Stephen.
Hello, and also joining us today is...
Hello, Stephen.
Oh, hello. I guess there's no one else here with us.
No, there is not. It's just the two of us today.
Yeah, we goofed up. We gone and goofed up.
Hopefully, we can keep the show interesting enough for you guys out there with just the two of us here, but we messed up a little bit and forgot to get a guest, but we'll be sure to try to get one next time, especially after this weekend's events, which will be pretty interesting. I'm pretty excited for what's going to be happening, and we'll talk about that later in the show, but where do you want to start off, Steven?
Well, first off, I just want to finish off my intro I usually do. This is a show about Pokemon's Video Game Championship Series, where we're all here about competitive Pokemon, and today we're going to be talking about the aftermath of the ONOG Invitational, some of the results, just things that happened in that tournament, and other things related to regionals upcoming this week and the international in a few weeks after that, or in 2 weeks after that, in Australia, coming up very soon. Very exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the events coming this weekend. And yeah, Australia is a big deal for a lot of people. It's coming up so fast. And I can't believe it's like already March by the time people will be listening to this.
Right on. But let's start with the ONOG Invitational. So I'm just going to start off here by saying I'm going to be completely honest that the only match I was able to see was Enosh versus Shoma. That was the last match on day one. I was able to see that and the just their post show that Aaron, Wolf, and Enosh talked about a little bit after that. And other than that, like, I've just seen results and that's about it. But Alex, I think you've seen a little bit more. What were your impressions of the event? From what I saw, I liked the layout on the stream. I liked how everything was organized. It looked really professional, and I was just really impressed by it.
Yeah, honestly, it was really well done. Very entertaining to watch and some very high-level play in the games. And I was just really excited to see so many high-level players, trying their hardest to end up taking each other down with these really interesting teams. Like, everybody, kind of spiced things up a little bit. I caught most of it. I unfortunately didn't get to see any of Alex Ogloza's play because I missed the latter half of day one, and unfortunately he just went down too quickly for me to see him. But everybody else, I saw some of their play, some of their team, and I was really impressed by it all. It was really cool.
Yeah, sounds like a hoot. And something else that happened on day two is that there were best of 5 matches, and how did those go?
Well, I believe every single best of 5 was a 3-0 sweep, unfortunately. So it was kind of like they did a best of 3, and then there was a redemption match, like, all right, you beat me 2-0, but, maybe give me one more chance, and then they still lost. And so it didn't end up, making a big difference in this case, just this tournament. Best of 5s are an interesting thing. I don't think they're, like, totally necessary for the future, but it was a cool thing to try out in this event here. And it was cool to watch because, more matches, more high-level play, more to learn and experience. But they didn't end up being too dramatic, or it was just really anticlimactic.
Oh, that's kind of unfortunate. See, I wonder, you mentioned how would these be necessary in the future for, real-life tournaments or even, like, other online things? But I wonder how a best of 5 would actually apply to a real tournament and how people would approach that type of a series rather than a best of 3. I imagine it'd be similar, just longer matches. You get to play a little more.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think, like, as is, best of 3 Swiss still takes so much time. So best of 5 Swiss just sounds completely unreasonable.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. Some of these matches can take a long time. Other ones we've seen can go by really quickly. And as we saw with the best of 5s, those apparently went quickly as well, 3-0s. So a lot of fun to see these things. And just talking about the finishes, we saw Shoma Honami defeat Aaron Zhang in the finals. And I saw Shoma's team when he played Enosh, and very cool team. Like, very deserving of the win, and he's proving again why he's a former world champion.
Yeah, Driftblim hasn't seen a ton of tournament success. We saw a little bit of it over in California a couple of weekends ago on, I believe, Raghav's team. But other than that, like, people have been talking about it. People know what it's starting to do because it's just kind of got a cool niche with the terrain seeds and the unburden ability and being one of the few tailwind setters in the format, as well as having a very interesting move pool. And so, yeah, Shoma really ended up capitalizing on the speed boost from Unburden to kind of just sweep through teams in Tailwind. And it was surprising to see that with so few answers to Trick Room, he was still able to defeat Aaron 3-0 in the finals, because a lot of people thought that his Trick Room matchup seemed kind of iffy, but he, I don't know, he really showed that maybe the best Trick Room answer is just outplaying your opponent every single turn.
I think with both the Driftblim appearance in California and this big win by Shoma using the Driftblim, that we're going to start seeing a lot more Driftblim, maybe a little more play, now that people can see some different things that it can do and provide a different role to a team. And, it's a very good support Pokemon and has very interesting typing. And, I think it's shared with Oricorio, maybe, with the Ghost Flying. Gives it some nice type immunities, especially for the common Snorlax moveset that does not have Crunch. I think people ran Crunch a little earlier, and then they switched to Return High Horsepower.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we've been seeing. So it does completely wall it. And I just did a quick check on Showdown, and you are correct that Oricorio's Sensu form is the only other Ghost Flying type. I was a little bit caught off guard by that fact because, I'm so used to things like Mismagius and Gengar, like being a ground type and immune to, or being a ghost type and immune to ground. But this is actually the only, or it was for a long time, the only Ghost Flying type. But we do actually have 2 in this format, 3 in existence if you count little baby Drifloon. But yeah. Really cool to capitalize on that unique typing and very unique role in the team.
Yeah, Drifloon wouldn't be able to abuse Unburdened, though, because I imagine people would want to go the Eviolite route.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, both of these Pokemon that we mentioned are Tailwind users, so that's an interesting thing that they also share in common besides their type, is that the Oricorio forms are one of the few Pokemon that can run Tailwind, but Drifloon, or Driftblim actually, has a lot easier of time setting it up, considering it can get the Psychic Seed special defense boost on the first turn if you lead it next to Tapu Lele, and then just be faster than everything and set up a Tailwind so that the rest of the team can enjoy that speed boost.
Right, and I just want to talk to the quality of this tournament. It seems from what I've seen, from what I've read, there were a lot of high quality matches. And, I plan on catching up on all these things, in the coming weeks. But, just with the quality of matches, the quality of the stream, and the quality of how the tournament was run, do you expect to see more of these in the future? And if there were to be any, like, are there any changes you would want to implement?
Yeah, I would actually love to see another tournament like this. I think that it's got a lot of hype behind it. I know that, like, they were, hovering around 7,000, I think to maybe even 10,000 viewers at some points. I don't know what the peak viewership was, but it was getting in a lot of views, and that was really cool to see. And in the future, I would just like to see, a greater variety of players. I don't know how reasonable it would be for them to, move up to the next power of 2, like 16 or 32. 32 sounds a little bit large, but like as a 16-man tournament, something possible for them to do in a weekend. Maybe make it a 3-day event if it can work out that way. And I would just like to see more players get the opportunity to play, because watching these high-level matches when there's a lot on the line is really great. It's really great to help veterans and beginners just learn from the best.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from there. There's just that restriction that people need to have capture cards, and I absolutely understand that. Like, in order to showcase these matches, you need that. And not everyone has capture cards who perhaps you'd want to get into this tournament, who has a capture card. So it makes selecting players difficult in a way.
Yeah, I agree. You bring up a good point that I'm guessing that it totally slipped my mind, and it probably slips a lot of people's mind when they look at this tournament, is that the importance of getting these matches streamed. You can only really have one person who doesn't have a capture card. Otherwise, the rest of the players have to have one so that there are no matchups possible where there's a capture card absent. So you kind of saw this with the Yoshi Invitational, where they chose to only have one player absent of a capture card because, showing the matches is the most important part. That's kind of why they're running this tournament, is for a bit of publicity and to help grow the game. And players are going to want to watch these matches live. It's not the same as, watching it on Showdown or watching a battle code after the match has already happened. So the importance of it being a live event is a big deal. And I gotta say that I think that the tournament was a really good success, and I already said it, but I do look forward to more of these in the future.
Yeah, I do too. I'm hoping I'm able to watch them or watch more of the matches live rather than having to catch up in the future. So, it was kind of difficult with, just stuff going on in the weekend. We also had an international challenge, and I know other people had in real life tournaments to attend. So sometimes, some people are traveling. Sometimes it's difficult to watch everything. But I suppose to move on from there, we've been waiting on this announcement for a while, and this is really about the official stream. So TPCI, the official stream, and they are providing commentators and commentary like they've done it in the past. And for both, we have a doubleheader for this weekend coming up on March 4th and 5th. And really what this is that the St. Louis regionals in the US and the Sheffield regional in the UK are both going to be streamed by their corresponding crews for commentary. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, I know personally that you and I will be hanging out this weekend in St. Louis, and having the event streamed live just always makes the event a lot more exciting. And it's great for the people back home who want to catch these big tournaments live. They want to watch these matches from the high-level players that are traveling out from all over to these events. So it's really cool. And we've even got some new commentators to boot in both the U.S. and in Europe. Do you want to mention who they are, Steven?
Absolutely. So to start off with St. Louis, we have Evan Lett, Dui Ha, Gabby Snyder, Adam Dorcott, and Aaron Zhang. So two things I want to point out here is Adam Dorcott Daz finally got added to an official stream team. So very exciting for him. Congratulations to him. I'm sure he's elated to, finally be added to that team or as a member to the team. And the other one is Aaron. He just played in Anaheim a few weeks ago, and now he's doing commentary in St. Louis. I'm a little confused.
Yeah, he was, back competing this season, and 2016 was the year that he did a bit more commentary because he was saying just it wasn't as much of his year, and so he did some commentary at Worlds, but now he's back commentating here at Regionals in the middle of a season where he's had a lot of success. He's shown to be very strong, so back at the commentary, and I think I do enjoy his commentary. He's a very informative player, very knowledgeable and skilled player, so it'll be cool to have him behind the desk with all these other commentators that we're also a bit more familiar with, except, Gabby, who is making a comeback. She wasn't just a one-time thing. She was added to the team back for San Jose, I believe.
Right.
And now she's here again, so I'm looking forward to all of these I was going to say players, but they are commentators. I'm looking forward to all of their commentary, mixing it up, seeing all kinds of different duos. And it's really cool to see Adam finally on the team. He's got a very satisfying voice. It's just one of those voices that was meant to be talking a lot and for people to listen to.
I'm sure a lot of the people out there appreciate the British accent he brings to the crew. And I just want to say, a couple more things about Aaron here. So one, I am grateful to him that he's going to be doing commentary for the regional. He does provide high quality commentary, from what he did at Nationals and Worlds. That was pretty good, very good in my opinion. The other thing is,
are you just grateful that he's commentating because he's not one of our competitors?
I was gonna get to that. Like, well, we know he's commentating, so we know he can't play for this regional at least. But all things aside, he needs to pick. Like, are you gonna be a commentator or are you gonna be a player? Like, so what this tells me is that they're kind of strapped for the commentary and commentators and the commentary crew. That there aren't that many out there. So if you want to try and get on that team, I'm sure they're looking to hire because, I'm sure Aaron would rather be playing in this thing.
Well, I thought here in the Midwest that we were safe from Aaron Zhang. I don't know, like maybe at Fort Wayne because that's a little bit towards New York, but here like at these tournaments that are more in the center, I think I'm safe from him. I feel like he's not going to come and get me. But then here he is flying in, but at least it's just for the commentary and not actually to compete and beat us down.
Oh, so we're going to be safe from him. Sounds like you're scared.
Oh, I'm not scared. In tournament, I think I am 1-0 in terms of sets, 2-0 in terms of games. Back the only time that I've ever played Aaron in a tournament was back in Nationals Day 1, the last round of Swiss. He was undefeated and I was 7-1, and I ended up taking it 2-0. So definitely not scared here. No, I can take Aaron's thing, but I'm looking out for everybody else.
All right, cool. Well, it's exciting. He's going to be on commentary again. I guess a threat we will not have to worry about for this regional. And I guess moving on from there. So, congrats to that stream team. We're going to be excited to see you guys and excited to see your commentary on the stream matches. Moving on from there, we have the European crew in Sheffield for the United Kingdom. We have returning Jay Blake, Sebi Ernst, Nemanja Sandic, Mateo Durrell, and newcomer for the official stream, Lee Provost.
Yeah, it's really cool to see more people added to the commentaries teams. I actually don't think I've heard Lee Provost's commentary. I believe he goes by Osiris BGC. Is that who it is?
I think that is correct.
But I've definitely seen his name around a lot. I know that he's a more known player in Europe, and so I imagine that he'll be a very informative, and I'm looking forward to watching the Sheffield stream, probably after the weekend because we'll be busy. But it's cool that this event will also be streamed so people can just keep watching Pokemon this whole weekend long.
Right, and you do got to remember time zones that they're going to be going before us, essentially.
Oh, yes, that's true. So if I do want to stay up all morning, the day before the tournament, I could end up
foolish.
I could watch some Sheffield for a bit of inspiration. Some players might end up doing that, have no idea what team to use, so they just look at the people who had a little bit, not less time, but who had to get everything together a little bit earlier, and now they're on stream, and then you just steal that team and show up to Collinsville with it. So, that's always an option if you feel like sleep is not a necessary thing. However, I think sleep is kind of valuable. So I'll probably end up being, if I can sleep, if I can sleep, I will be sleeping.
Yeah, in terms of time zones, though, I think morning for us here in America will at least be able to see any of the late matches that happen over in Sheffield. If they do end up running that much later. So, that's just how you can work around with time zones to possibly see both. But very excited to see Lee added to this team. He's a high quality player. We've seen him prove himself before at various nationals. He's top cut worlds before in 2014. So very excited to see him. Can't wait to see what he brings, what he adds to this team. And I guess before we go move on to talk about the Collinsville regionals and then the Sheffield regionals, we'll kind of talk about them as a whole in terms of Pokemon, what we're kind of expecting, that kind of stuff. We do want to do a quick mention here for Sam Pandelis. Zelda VGC is doing another challenge, another online tournament challenge event. This one called the Sao Paulo Challenge. And Alex, I hear this is going to be very similar to the Melbourne Challenge, which happened pretty recently.
Yeah, it's another one of those win-a-trip challenges, I believe. And the Melbourne Challenge got quite a turnout, I believe. And it was a big tournament. There was a stream going on for it. It was very competitive. And a lot of people thought it was really well run. There was good things about it, so I guess that might be why we're having another one. Sao Paulo, I believe, is the location of the International in Brazil, coming up after Melbourne, Australia's International. So if players, aren't able to attend Australia, but, they're looking for a way to scrap up cash, just go win the Sao Paulo Challenge. It'll be on March 18th, I believe, that weekend. Maybe actually, I think they do it all in one day. I'm not positive, though. But yeah, March 18th. It's a Saturday in some time zone. All around the world. I guess it's going to be something else, but it's scheduled here. It says Saturday 18th March, and so looking forward to that. I might consider competing into myself because I heard about the Melbourne Challenge, but I didn't know exactly when it was happening, so I didn't prepare in time. But this is something that it's a really cool opportunity. At the very least, could be some good practice and some fun games against players who, again, like I mentioned in the ONOG Challenge, really busting out their best to try to get that ultimate prize in the end, which in this case is quite a handsome prize, a free trip to Brazil.
Right, and again, this is going to be a worldwide tournament held on Pokemon Showdown. Another thing that I think is a key difference here is rather than only first place from the Melbourne Challenge getting prize money for that, I think the award or the prize money trickles down all the way to top 4 for this one.
You're right. I did just notice that in the description of it. And yeah, that is different from last time. I remember when people were talking about that event, they said it was all or nothing. You win it and you get the trip. But, maybe after the turnout last time, they saw that the money was well enough to get yourself to Australia. And so this time they're deciding to have it trickle down a little more, make it, I guess, a little less on the line in that finals match and more about getting to top 4 to at least get yourself a little bit of money to either pocket or travel out to Brazil.
Right. So, gonna be a very exciting opportunity for people to play in and try to get some money. Just either to use it to travel or use it however you'd like. And to move on from there, we're gonna circle back to the regionals coming up this weekend. So, another key thing is it is now March. We are, I think, exactly halfway through the season. Is that right? August to August, would March be the halfway point?
I don't know, Steven. I do math all day at school. I'm not going to do it now on the podcast.
Okay, hold on. 4, 2. Yes, this is the halfway point. We've reached the halfway point of the season. If you look from the past worlds all the way to the next one, this is, pretty much the halfway point.
It's so weird to talk about the halfway point, though. It was a little bit more distinct in past years when we had, chunks of events, and it was kind of how, at least here in the U.S. But now that regionals are spread all over, and we're kind of like the rest of the world, I really don't know how to divide it up, because it really depends on the person. You might have 3 more regionals, 4 more regionals left, or you might have, 1, 0 regionals left. So halfway is kind of a weird way to chop it up, but I guess... in terms of time, yeah, we're halfway from Worlds to the next one. Still got to work on grinding up that CP. There's a lot of events left, but yeah, I guess that's an interesting thing to note.
Yeah, I still kind of feel bad for Europe. A lot of the players have pretty much hung up their competitor's jacket for the rest of the season, and and rightfully so after the internationals happened already in December. But, so, time wise, we're probably halfway through the season. Again, this depends on what region you're actually in, what it actually feels like to you. For North America, at least, I know, for our regional schedule, we had 16 originally to start when they first announced that back in the fall. We just completed number 8, which was Anaheim. So we're in the second half of the regional cycle. And, that's exciting. I think that we're halfway through the season. We can kind of get a look at what players are doing with their points and stuff. How people have been doing with the season so far. There's still a lot of championship points to be won. So I think standings can be shaken up a lot. in terms of at least with the regionals themselves. Uh, it's exciting.
It's interesting that you mention, looking at where we are here halfway in the season. And there are a lot of factors that you mentioned that do kind of define this as just about halfway. Once we're past Melbourne internationals, then I think we will be very clearly halfway through the season, because having the 2 internationals done, 2 to go, seems pretty easy to understand there. But, the CP is shaping up like we don't have a whole lot of players already invited to Worlds, and while that sounds not too surprising, there's still a lot of season left. The way things are looking, we're not really sure if this Worlds is going to be as big as the last one. I'm almost positive it's going to be smaller than it was last year. Last year's Worlds was the biggest one ever, so I'm not sure exactly how many players we're going to end up with, but compared to years past, it's going to be much smaller than last year, and could be even smaller than years before then.
I definitely agree that we're not going to have anywhere near the size of last year, mainly because the CP bar went up pretty high for some other regions. Latin America's last year was 150. Now it's 400. That's going to shake things up a lot. And just when you have the universal bar in general go up for all the regions, you're going to have less people qualify, I think. And it's a good change, at least in terms of you actually having to earn the invite rather than 150 points. Like that was hilarious, I thought. But yeah, I don't know. I think numbers could be comparable to previous years, other than last year, in terms of Worlds qualified, and then the attendees too. So we'll see what happens. Could be comparable, could be less. I don't think we're gonna get anywhere near like last year's numbers.
Yeah, and a smaller Worlds normally is deemed a bit more competitive. You have a higher pool, a higher concentration, not higher pool, smaller pool, but a high concentration of strong players. You're going to see, kind of like the ONOG Invitational again, but high concentration of good matches just all over the place. Top players playing every single round. And so that's a really cool aspect of it that we could end up seeing this year. Hopefully, Steven and I get to see it live. We still got ways to go in terms of the championship points, but everyone out there, there's still a lot of time. There's still a lot of events to go to. So, don't give up hope yet, even though the bar is higher this year. There were some changes that make it possible for anyone to make it to the World Championships. You just gotta, get out there and compete.
Championship points are another thing I do kind of want to talk about really quickly here is, how do players feel in general right now about, where their CP is at? This is more rhetoric than anything. How do you feel about what your point total is right now, where we're pretty much 6 months in, so we're roughly halfway through the season.
Yeah,
how do you feel about your points at this point?
Not so good.
I feel like right, not so good. I feel like to be on pace for Worlds, you want to be roughly halfway in your point total, roughly halfway through the season. But I think both of us are under 100 right now, so that's not looking great.
Yeah, I would be just at like 103 or something like that, but I'm having a bit of a discrepancy with a PC that I won, so I potentially might just lose those 20 points. So a bit of an ouch, but I've got a couple, I got like 2 more opportunities to make up for it. So I'm sitting at like 80 something. I know that you're probably in a similar boat. I don't think you got too much CP from the first PC series. I don't know how to define those. I call them series. But yeah, like we said, we're halfway through the season. But I wanted to mention that, like I said earlier, it depends on how many events you've got left. Like for us personally, we've got a regional this weekend. We've likely are going to make it out to Madison. And from there, for us Midwest players, there aren't a whole lot left besides the internationals. I've found myself, kind of worrying about my CP the other day because I was like, opportunities are starting to run slim. So I was looking up like the point payouts for internationals and kind of figuring out what exactly a player would need to do if they were in my standing to make it to the 500 point bar that it's sitting at right now. And it's still a long climb, but it just is dependent on the player or dependent on your situation, because for some players, opportunities are running out, but for some people, there's still plenty. We've got 3 internationals left and regionals all over the place, so it's still totally possible to grind up all those points.
No, you're definitely right. So I think another way to look at it is if you're not really on pace to qualify for Worlds before whatever international you're going to, say for North America as an example, it's the last one in the season. Say your point total isn't looking too great right now. What you really want to do is just accumulate as much as you can and try to make the job easier at the international, so you don't have to get a crazy high finish. Obviously, that's always what you want to shoot for, but lessen the pressure you have to put on yourself, which I guess could backfire in a way, because having more pressure on yourself probably makes you play better, I think.
Oh, that's your standpoint on it? You're a high pressure equals big performance kind of player, not more of a play kind of casually play for fun leads to big success thing?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely the first one.
That's an interesting topic that we'll have to discuss with a guest in the future. Is just, it's actually one of 2 topics that I want to discuss. The other one I'll mention to you maybe off the air so we don't spoil it. But yeah, that's an interesting one. Is when you're going into a tournament, do you think having a high amount of pressure on the tournament leads to big success, or is going in casually, looking to play for fun, and not caring too much about your result lead more to the higher results? I don't know which camp I sit in. You told me which camp you sit in. You say that pressure is the driving force that gets these players to the top. I don't know. I feel like there's a mix, but if I had to pick a side right now, I guess I would probably pick the casual side, because it's about having fun. I talked about this, I think, in the last week, and it's important to have fun with Pokemon. When it becomes too much of a need to perform, then you're really not playing the game for enjoyment anymore. You're just playing to kind of prove it to yourself or whoever, and it should be more about, a pastime, a hobby. And so I'm saying that maybe it's more about having fun at the tournament, not putting a lot of pressure on it. That was kind of what helped me have my success at the 2015 National, was I was just using a team that I really loved, and so just played a lot of fun Pokemon that weekend, and I did well that weekend. So I don't know, but you've also done a lot in the past. You've won regionals, and how did you feel when you went into that regional that you won? Was it a kind of a fun thing, or was it more like, I need to perform this weekend?
I had fun because I got to use my team with Heracross on it, so I always had fun using that thing. And I feel like over the years I've just molded the game into this should be a fun event, no matter what happens. So in terms of qualifying for events or getting points and stuff, I do like having pressure on, just because when I'm too relaxed, then I don't care as much, and I don't like taking that approach when playing the game. And it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird just saying that with the such a competitive season every year on the line. So I do tend to prefer having the pressure on me for for me personally, it makes me play better.
All right. So you've heard from me and Steven what we think, and we'll definitely mention this more in the future. And so I'm just curious, I guess, a little bit more on the subject before we move away from it. How are you feeling going into this weekend? Are you looking for, since we are so kind of far out from the World's invite, are you looking again for a performance weekend, or is this more about going out, having fun, and just using something, or maybe not using something, but just, playing Pokemon for the fun of it, I guess?
So I know both you and I are competitive players, and I know the end goal is we want to qualify for Worlds, and if we can win Worlds, that's every player's dream who's playing this, other than having fun and having a good time with their friends. But in terms of actually answering the question, with, both our CP counts right now are pretty miserable, so I feel like if if I don't personally, if I don't have a good performance here, like my season's pretty much over. Like it's gonna be very difficult from just trying to accumulate more with what's left. I think. So I think I have a lot of pressure on me this weekend. How are you feeling about it? Do you have a lot of pressure, or are you going to have fun for this one?
Yeah, it's the pressure. I think it's the pressure boat. Just because, like, when you look at the numbers, it's just ridiculous. Like, if either of you or I were to go on and win this regional and then the next Madison regional or whatever regional we end up attending, neither of us would have Worlds invites yet. It's 200 points for first at a regional, and we're below 100. So
Yeah, that's scary to think about.
it's like looking at our standings, it's going to come down to that international. And you mentioned earlier, it's all about lessening that blow at the end. We're pretty much, destined to have that at the end unless we're able to grind up some midseason or PC points. But even then, we have to win 2 regionals. So, that's the ridiculous part of it all. It's going to come down to that international. We're going to need a performance there. And so, I think just thinking about it, and not just in terms of us, but in terms of everyone, I think it's going to be a smaller Worlds, and I think that there's a lot of pressure on both of us to perform this weekend if we want any chance to make it.
Right, and we're heading into the spring. We're in the last month of the winter series. We're heading into the spring series. I always like seeing. This is always my favorite time of the season when stuff really starts to ramp up, and as we gear towards the summer, and then finally into Worlds. So. Very exciting times. But, like you said, I think the topic of pressure versus having fun, just comparing all that stuff, I think I'd love to talk about these things in the future. So, it was nice to kind of go over it here. But, let's talk about actual Pokemon here for the regionals coming up. So, players in Europe, I'm sure, are concerned with what they're going to be dealing with in Sheffield, and I'm sure players heading to St. Louis, and then I guess also the international in Melbourne are also going to be concerned with what kind of teams should we be expecting, what kind of Pokemon should we be expecting, do we have any crazy revelations over the last few weeks that have changed since January or February, because we've seen the metagame kind of change and develop since its first month when everything was just pretty much a wild card. Nobody really knew what they were doing in December. And you could tell if you go back to watch some of those older events, like stuff is all over the place. How are you feeling about it in terms of the Pokemon? How far metagames come? Any thoughts?
Well, I think it's interesting to think about. This year, I don't really know how to feel about the American or the US meta versus the European meta. Like, in 2016, we saw a pretty distinct difference where there was noticeable archetypes that you could kind of pick out very easily just because restricted cores made it so obvious what the team's kind of goals were. However, this year, instead, we just generally see, popular Pokemon thrown all over the place. I believe Gavin said it at one point earlier in the season that like the top 20, 25 Pokemon, you could pick any 6 from those and it would be a viable team. Just because they all can, work together and cover each other's bases. So, in terms of the meta, like just in general, I think this weekend we're going to see people adapting to strong Trick Room teams. People, maybe carrying Taunt a bit more, Roar, stuff like that to stop Trick Room from going up because we saw Gavin really tear up regionals a couple weekends ago. And people don't want to, fall fate to that again. So the strong Trick Room teams might also be coming out as well. We might see people seeing that, being inspired by it, and trying to pull that and achieve another regional success with a dedicated hard Trick Room team. Other than that, I'm expecting to see a lot of Snorlax just because that's becoming a very popular Pokemon, and I know you'd be happy to see it. And then, as well as we mentioned it before on the show, AFK, Arcanine, Feeny, the Tapu Fini, and Kartana, a good Firewater Grass core that picked up towards the... It's funny to say the middle of the season because it was in January, about 2 months into the format, but AFK kind of picked up, and now it hasn't really gone away. People are using that. And then lastly, we're going to see, I think, some inspiration from the ONOG Invitational. We might see a bit more Driftblim, might see a bit more of Aaron's team, considering he's been running that core for so long. He has made very small changes to it and has just continued to have success with it. So maybe people will start to realize that, hey, like he's really onto something here. This is a very consistent team. And yeah, that's just kind of what I'm expecting for this weekend. It's all over the place. Like, this meta is a very widespread one. It's hard to cover everything. But in terms of making the calls for this weekend, I think those are things to watch out for and more.
Right, and it's not only about making metagame calls. I feel like I never really liked that term, like calling metagames, all that stuff. People say that all the time. I'm not the biggest proponent of that. I always feel like you need to have, I guess it's what it is, but I still hate when people say that. You still have to have the answers for the current modern things in the metagame, which really is what calling the metagame is. But
you're saying you dislike the term, but you're not denying its existence.
Right, exactly. I dislike the term, but I'm not denying its existence. Whatever. Let's.
It's a buzzword to you. Is that what you think it is?
Yeah. Let's move on from there. But I agree. Like, AFK's been, ever since it first sprung up on the scene, it's hasn't seen too much shift away from it yet. I think it's people haven't found the best way to counter it or check it yet. So it's beatable. It's also very good. So it's going to be a staple for a while. Another thing is Porygon 2 Araquanid has won every major US event so far. So I wonder if that's a trend that will continue for this weekend. Something else is Marowak disappeared. Like, there was a bunch of it early on, and now I haven't seen very much of it, to be honest. And I completely understand why it's gone away too. Like, the item restriction kind of stinks. Its speed is in that weird mediocre place where it's not slow enough to do things in Trick Room, and to put some investment into speed, that still can be a little tricky. So it's understandable. Other Pokemon, Snorlax, I agree with you there. I'd be very excited to see more of it as well. It's very hard to play against, though. What else is there? Other staples like the typical Z crystals you're seeing, I think those are, not going to change too much either. Like, you have your Hydro Vortex, you have the, what's it called? Tectonic Rage. Some, Inferno Overdrive for some of the fire types, like Arcanine, namely. But yeah, like, the metagame's weird, mostly because there are so many viable Pokemon still, and, this is one of the exciting formats. Like, even though we have a regional dex here, it's, similar to the national dexes of 2012 and 2013, where there were a lot of viable Pokemon. And if you just look at some of the top cuts from a lot of those events from those years, it's very comparable to what we have now, is that a lot of Pokemon are viable. All you really have to do is have an extremely solid team to play with, understand the ins and outs of it, and I think you'll be fine as long as you're comfortable playing with your team.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there that, it's not so much about the meta call as more as just being ready for, I guess, what you expect to see and just playing, well with your team, playing comfortably with it. Also, you mentioned Porygon 2 and Araquanid, and that's definitely something that should have been mentioned before. It's a very, like we said, it's won every American regional, and that continued with Gavin. Even though he was one of the regional winners, just using a variation of his team, it is a strong combo. And I remember him saying, it was either in his interview or on Twitter, that if you're not using Porygon 2 or Aquanid at regionals, you're throwing. So keep that in mind when you're building your teams, everybody. Should expect to see 8 Porygon 2 or Aquanids in the top 8 cut, or 16 of them if there's a top cut of 16, which I do hope for. And we'll have to see how it goes across the pond in Europe, because Porygon 2 or Araquanid was not quite the fearsome duo over there as it is here. So in terms of their meta, I think it's very similar to the American meta. I don't know how much of a difference there is this year as there has been in past years. Do you have anything to say about the European meta, or do you kind of just agree with me that there really isn't much of a distinction?
I don't think there's much of a distinction. I think there's a good reason for that. I think it's because the metagames are kind of growing concurrently this year specifically. Because before we used to have, essentially just every region was its own region, kind of developing on its own. But we've seen so much more online interactivity in terms of, say for example, the ONOG Invitational. That gives us a lot of opportunity to see what players like Seijin Park are doing, Shomo Hanami. There's been a lot more interactivity in terms of just cross-continental play, and just I don't know, for some reason in years past, like the metagames always seem to develop separately. This year I feel like it's more fluid, and they kind of all mesh together as one, and you can either just pay attention to how stuff is trending on BattleSpot or Showdown, and I think you'll get a pretty, a nice picture of what's happening worldwide. And then you still always have those wild cards of, people using really weird teams all over the board, and that never changes, but you can always pick out key differences in what players are using, but I think the metagames, worldwide, like, the game has been growing as one.
Yeah, you definitely like the way you put it, is that there isn't much of a difference just around, because it kind of goes along with the fact that people can compete anywhere, and with these internationals allowing players from all over to compete, we do kind of see a worldwide flavor just all over the place. It's just VGC 2017 everywhere. It's not American VGC 2017, European, or anything else, and so expect to, this weekend, the regional call is prepare for everything. Don't have a bad matchup, and it may sound hard, but just be practiced with your team, and I think that will probably be the biggest component of it all.
Is that even possible, not to have a bad matchup?
I mean, you got to believe it, Steven. You got to believe it. When you're fine-tuning your team, you want to work for everything. I remember in last year at Fort Wayne, in this year's CP cycle, but playing in the 2016 format, I brought a team that I was like, well, I had Xerneas and Yveltal, and I was like, well, I lose to Mawile automatically. But you know what? Groudon is very popular. It will beat down all the Mawiles. I won't face one. And I ended up facing a Mawile in, I think, round 2 or 3. And I did take it to 3 games, but it was a very impossible to win set. And I was like, well, I mean, sometimes you got to choose to take the matchup lottery and just say, I'm not going to face that team, hopefully, and just pray, and, just pray that you do not see that auto loss. But in general, your best option is always to have a team that just doesn't have bad matchups, and there will be harder matchups that are winnable through good play. But yeah, you are right that you can't cover everything, but, when you're team building, you got to tell yourself that you can. You keep working and, either changing moves, EV spreads, or just swapping out different Pokemon, and really opening up your mind to different possibilities to, give yourself the chance to make the best team possible.
Yeah, team building is difficult this format, and, I've been struggling with it a lot, so I've been trying out different teams here and there. I think another important thing is to just make sure you're having fun while playing. It makes the team building, it makes playing a lot easier to do. It makes it more fun, obviously. And as I think the biggest thing again is just as long as you're comfortable with the team, even if you have a bad matchup, you'll know how to play around it. So you'll be able to pull out that win. Another thing is, I wonder how much of an impact these 2 regionals over the weekend will have on the international for Australia next week. And I'm also worried about attendance for these 2, mainly because some people could be, either preparing more seriously for the international, or they're saving up money for the international. So I'm hoping both regionals can get a nice turnout so they can get a bigger top cut. That's obviously something we'd want to see as we're attending Collinsville.
Yeah, I think that we shouldn't see a cut, or not cut isn't the right word, but a smaller attendance from the attendance in St. Louis and Sheffield, just because of Melbourne coming up, because the players that are traveling out to there are so few. There are a couple that have paid trips, and then there are some that are going to just travel there on their own to try to get that big CP at or the championship points at the international stage. But in general, I don't think you're going to see a ton of players traveling out. It's going to be a lot of the players paid to travel, and then a lot of Australians, I think, in my opinion. But there are going to be people traveling out, and I guess for the reasons you stated, saving money or saving your strategies, we could see a slight decrease in attendance, but I don't think it'll be that big of a difference.
I guess we're kind of moving on here to the international in Australia, which is in March. What are the dates again?
It's not this weekend, which is the 3rd, so it's the one after that, the 10th? Right?
Gotcha, yeah. It's March 10th, which is the Friday. March 10th, 11th, and 12th. It's a 3-day event because it's international. So, obviously we'll talk more about this next time after the regionals are over, and we're right before the international, so that'll be exciting to do. But I just kind of doing a little preview here before it. Not really a preview, but just talking about the international in general. I wonder how many players from that region are actually going to go. Like you remember how they had all kinds of nationals out there in Asia Pacific? I wonder how many, of those players are actually going to fly out to Australia. I wonder how much of Japan's going to show up too.
Yeah, even though I believe Japan do they still have a different invite structure than us?
Oh, yes, almost definitely.
Yeah, but they could still come out. They can still compete, and there isn't just championship points on the line, and so they could, get the prizes. I believe there are pretty extensive cash prizes for international, so most definitely. You could see some of the Japanese players coming out. I don't know how expensive that is for them, but, we saw some Japanese players in London. We could see some players just coming from that area in Asia, like Korea and stuff, traveling out. We're really going to see quite a international scene, and I see a lot of Australian players joking on Twitter about defending their international because so many people are traveling out, and we've got these paid invites for a lot of top players, and so they're worried about sticking their claim is that this is their international. They are going to be the ones that are cutting it and succeeding in it, and defending themselves against the rest of the world and proving that Australia is a threat to be reckoned with. Yeah,
you just think about that as a general concept. Each international in each different region, each of the players in their respective regions are going to want to try their hardest to defend it. So as we saw in Europe, took 7 out of the top 8 cut slots. So they did a pretty good job there, and they ended up defending their own international. I imagine Australia would want to do the same, although I do lump in, pretty much all of Asia Pacific with them. So
yeah.
I understand for the actual Australians who would want to defend their own country, their own continent, their own everything, islands too. Yeah, I imagine once we get to Latin America and North America, they're going to want to defend their own regions. I wonder if Australia or if any international will be taken over by someone from a different rating zone.
Yeah, we'll have to see if this is the one that breaks while we only have a chain of 1, we'll see if a cycle starts or if it's immediately broken. I don't really know what to expect. This could very well be a regional that shakes it up. We saw, like you said, 7 out of 8 of the cut in London were European players, Tommy Cooling being the only American to make it into that top 8 cut. So I'm wondering if the numbers are going to be similar at the Melbourne International, or if they were going to have even more invaders in the top cut. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And we've been talking a lot about the international when we should. Shouldn't we be focusing on the regionals, don't you think?
I feel like we've talked a lot about the regionals, what to expect at them, who's going to be commentating them, and generally how we're feeling about them. But it is kind of the biggest deal for us right now. I'm really excited for regionals this weekend. Besides the obvious pressure to form that we've talked about, are you excited to be playing Pokemon this weekend, hanging out and competing?
Yeah, I'm actually feeling good about it. Like, I'm excited to play. For once, this has been a long time since I've had this feeling. But yeah, I'm excited to play. What about you?
I am too. I'm still deciding on the team. I've got a really busy school week, and so it's basically going to be like testing here and there, and then once it comes to Friday, just spend all day breeding and just getting everything ready in game. And hopefully I'm decided by Friday. Hopefully I know what I'm doing. How are you feeling about getting ready for the Collinsville Regional?
Oh, no comment. Like, I think I'm ready.
No comment, but you're ready? Yeah, I had a feeling
no
that
comment,
you might
but
be
I'm ready.
I thought you might be a little bit secretive about it.
I don't want to ruin the surprise when we get there.
Yeah, the surprise.
The quote-unquote surprise.
Oh, okay. Now he's really mind-gaming me. I don't really know what to think. I mean, Steven and I are competitors. I was actually joking amongst my NPA team because most of the players are not from America. We have myself, Brendan Zhang, and Grant Weldon. And Brendan Zhang's not in the Masters division yet, so he's not somebody I have to worry about. But Grant is from the area, and so he will likely be at the Collinsville Regional. And I was asking for help in our group, just kind of working things out. And he was also asking for help, and I was like, no, you guys can't help Grant. Like, he is my competition. And there's a similar feeling between me and you. And while we are friends, we can't let each other know everything because Pokemon is very much an information game, and we will be competing this weekend. Maybe not against each other, but we'll just have to see how things turn out.
I want to play you. We didn't get to play last year.
It's true. Actually, funnily enough, funny story. At Collinsville last year, Steven and I both did cut. Made it into the top 8, and we both lost in top 8. Yeah, you lost in top 8 as too. And Steven and I don't believe we lost at the same time, but we were 1-1 at the same point. I know that much. We were both 1-1, and then from then on for the rest of the tournament, we had the same record. And every single round, I was waiting to play Steven, and I kept talking to him, like, what's your record? And you're like, X and 1. And I'm like, oh yeah, me too. And then it was just that the whole day, and I'm like, I'm waiting for the pairings to show me versus Steven right here. But it never ended up happening. And I feel like I've probably mentioned this on the podcast before, but I was looking forward to playing you because I had the matchup. I had the Dialga, you had the Kyogre. It would have been good. It would have been good for me.
Yeah. For the context there is, pretty much what you just said. It was Dialga Kyogre versus Rayquaza Kyogre. So that's what you were hoping for. I actually had no idea what you were using, so I would not have known what to expect from you if we did get matched up, but it's always a fun story to bring up.
Were you aware of it at the time? Because I believe I was aware. Were you aware that we were like at the same record the whole day?
I was aware of the records thing because I think we kept asking each other every round, probably.
Yeah.
But I didn't know about the team.
Oh, yeah. I just meant the records part, that we were kind of just climbing together at the same pace and just not facing each other. I don't know. The odds of it, I don't know exactly what it ends up being because there are a lot of players. It was a decently sized regional. I can't remember the attendance, but I'm hoping this year it'll be bigger. I always want to see bigger attendances.
I hope so too. Yeah, I hope we get a nice attendance. That's all I can really say. Hope we get a lot of people. Hope we get some great matches. And yeah, I'm excited. Can't wait to play.
Yeah, this will be my first regional in this format. I think you went to Georgia, so you got to have a little bit of taste of the 2017 format at the regional level then. But yeah, this is my first time, and I'm really excited for it because I was on the fence of going to Georgia, but it just didn't end up working out in the end, and so I've been waiting for a long, long time to compete in some high-level VGC 2017.
Yes. Well, we'll get that opportunity soon. And, I can't wait to see what comes out of it, really. Just both the regionals over the weekend, how the commentary plays out, how the events play out, and the internationals coming up in 2 weeks. That is crazy. Like, another mini worlds, that's going to be so exciting to watch.
Absolutely. And Steven, if you were to win regionals this weekend, and I know I'm jinxing you now by mentioning it, but if you were to make that
Thanks.
serious cash, the 3,000 or however much it ends up being, would you consider just getting on a impromptu flight to Australia?
Nope, you're crazy. No way.
But you have the money now. You would have it.
I actually honestly think my passport is expiring, so I don't know if I'd be able to... I might be able to get out of the country, but I don't know if I'll be able to get back in. Not only for those reasons, of course, but...
It's a big trip to plan, too.
It's a big trip to plan, so my answer is a definitive 100% no.
Yeah, mine would be a big no, too.
Yours is going to be a big no, too?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to, but I think similar reasons, like you mentioned the passport, and that wasn't even what I was considering. I was just thinking, like, well, I have school, and it would be really hard to, like, get that time off. Plus, you have to really dedicate a lot of planning to flying through so many time zones. Like, I know Sam Schweitzer, who's going, he mentioned to me that, like, he basically doesn't have a March 2nd or something like that. He's losing a day. Like, it just disappears because he's flying into a whole new time zone. And so that he, like, just kind of loses a day. And flying, he's time traveling. That's what he's doing. But I think my passport, like you mentioned, is expired. I don't think I've updated it since, like, I turned 21. I don't know if you have to update it when you turn 21 or not.
I have no idea.
I don't know what the ages are for passports, but I know mine is expiring, and if I wanted to travel, I would have to get it updated, and I don't have the time for that. So if I do end up winning regionals this weekend, I'll just pocket the cash, and you consider it a little bit of payback for all the money that I've spent traveling to all these other events.
Yeah, definitely. And for me, it's not about the money. It's not about the trophy. It's not about just showing, everyone else, hey, I won. It's all about just getting the win.
Yeah.
And what I meant with the thing before that was, like, not showboating or just proving, like, or saying, hey, I'm better than everyone. Like, to me, like, it's just about getting the win. Getting a championship win under your belt.
Yeah, that is a really cool part of it. It's just kind of cool that regional champions kind of just, like, embedded in this, not so much Hall of Fame, but, like, your name will forever be a regional champion, and like, people can't take that away from you. There's no going back, stealing your title or anything. Like, sure, they might win it the next year, but for that year, for, like, let's say, like, the 2017 Collinsville regional, like, you were the champion of that event, and no one can take it away from you.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was a big deal for Gavin when he won the first regional in San Jose, and he followed that up by winning another one in Anaheim. I thought it was a big deal for him just because he had that nationals title, and at regionals, for whatever reason, he couldn't get the regional title. So I think it's pretty big for him, really solidifying himself as one of the best players in the world. So excited to see what comes from him.
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up, Stephen. And it just makes me wonder, just really quick, if are there multiple people that are national and regional champions? I know that would be considered, like, Aaron Zhang, because a lot of people talk about, like, not the three-peat, but, like, the Triple Crown. And there are not very many players who have won regionals, nationals, and worlds. And while Worlds is definitely the biggest one, Gavin is 2 steps of the way there, 2 out of 3. And he would just need to be a world champion to get that Triple Crown. But at that point, I mean, being a world champion is kind of a bigger deal than anything. Do you know any other players that are also national and regional champions? National and regional champions? Well, we'd really have to look worldwide for that. Yeah, there's probably a lot in Europe. Marcus is definitely one. I mean, we could talk about this next time or some few episodes down the line, but I'd have to think about it. We could make a list and go over it. Yeah, we could definitely talk about that sometime in the future. I brought it up because I thought there might be fewer than I imagined, but the players that end up going all the way in nationals are strong players, so they end up taking it at Worlds too. But yeah, we can talk about players who have earned their Triple Crowns, or if they are still on the way to it and how close they are. So yeah, that's something to talk about in the future.
Yeah, that's like its whole episode.
You think it's a whole episode? It could be, yeah.
Oh no, I absolutely think we could do a whole episode just talking about players who have won, what their wins meant, and how much more they have to do to finish up that Triple Crown, so to speak.
That sounds like a roar of time, which we actually I don't think have ever done officially. So we definitely need, or I guess, did we do one with Mike Selesky? Was that a roar of time, right?
Yeah, we haven't done these in a while, but we've had a lot of other stuff.
2017
happening.
Has been a crazy start. There's been so much to talk about every single time that we've been recording. So just a lot going on with 2017, and it's really good. Like there's that VGC is just constantly there's something like going on, either big events hosted by the Pokemon Company themselves, or now we're seeing a lot of player-run tournaments springing up, and whether it's these Win the Trip challenges or these invitationals, there's just a lot going on in the VGC scene, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, we don't even... I have no idea where I was going with that, but...
Well, it's been a while. We've been talking for a long time, and it's probably about time to wrap up the show. We've spent enough time rambling to you guys, and I think... you guys are probably sick of the two of us anyway, You're like, where's the guest? Like, this is what we come here for, is to hear from those interesting VGC players who you don't always get to hear from. So, yeah, next time we'll make sure to correct our mistake. No promises, though. Steven and I are exceedingly lazy.
Thanks for pointing that out. But you're right. Let's close up the show here. You guys can find our show on iTunes. Download us there. Leave us a review there. We have an email address, vgchypervoice@gmail.com. You can send us an email with feedback or questions for the show. You can also tweet at us your feedback or any questions you'd like us to answer on the show. Speaking of tweeting at us, we're both on Twitter. Alex, where can people find you?
At Super Morioka. And Steven, people can find you at...
I'm at Lexicon VGC. And good luck to everyone going out to all the events in the coming weeks. We're very excited to bring you more from the Hyper Voice. We hope you guys enjoyed the show. Bye.
Look forward to us covering those events. See you guys later.